Hello, Garland Nixon here. Let's talk about what we learned in 2022 about the political dynamics and the power dynamics in European politics. Let's talk. Hello there, everyone on YouTube and Twitter and all those places and Rockfin, especially Rockfin. Hello, let's talk about what we learned in 2022 about the dynamics of power in Europe. You know, Malcolm X was a funny guy, and he had a great he used a lot of great analogies and things like that. And one of the analogies that he used is that of the guard dog, right? And he said the guard dog, he talked about the guard dog. What he was talking about was this: the guard dog is trained to protect his master, not himself. Right. And you might have heard me on some of my videos use this analogy before, discuss this before. What is the guard dog trained to do? And Malcolm X told basically this story. I'm paraphrasing it. The guard dog's walking down the street, kick the dog, he runs. He hides his tail. He dips his little back. You know how dogs do when they're scared and they're being subservient. The guard dog runs. He runs. He's scared. The guard dog is not trained to protect himself. The guard dogs has one value in the world, and that value, the only value that the guard dog has in the world, based on the dog's training and the dog's paradigm, the dog's perception of life, his value is what? To protect his master. He's called a guard dog. He's not a hunting dog. You get a hunting dog. When I was growing up, my dad was a old school kind of guy, and he did rabbit hunting, and he had these beagles, right? And they just barked, and he'd go out and they'd chase a rabbit, he'd shoot the rabbit, whatever, right? There was rabbit hunters, rabbit hunting dogs. That was the dog's value. Another buddy of mine used to train these special bird dogs that he sold all over the world for like umpteen thousands of dollars per dog, right? And they were trained to what? I don't know. I guess if you shoot a bird or they find a bird, I don't know what bird dogs do. Whatever bird dogs do, that's what this dog did. He was a bird dog. His mission in life was birds. He'd go out and get the bird. He'd come back, and I guess the owner gives him a treat or a snack or whatever. He's happy. He has fulfilled his mission in life. What is a guard dog's mission in life? To guard his master. The guard dog doesn't even have a concept of his own safety, of his own life, of his own reality. His reality is based on his master's reality. It's based on, I have a master. I'm here to be between my master and danger. And however I need to. He'll growl at you. He'll bark at you. He'll just stand there and look at you. If a guard dog is guarding his master and you start walking around, he'll start by looking at you. He'll look at you and he'll try to evaluate you. Are you a threat? Are you not a threat? You're a threat. He will send some kind of a message to you. With some dogs, it's going to be, they're going to attack quick. Others are going to growl a little bit. Others will show their teeth. Their hair will start to stand up, right? A guard dog is fulfilling his mission in life to guard his or her, I guess. I don't know if they train female dogs. I don't know anything about dogs that much. I don't even have a dog. All I know is the guard dog's job is to guard. And a guard dog will give their life. 2-3 people, 2 or 3 dogs, 2 dogs, twice his size. A bear. There's instances where lions and bears and huge animals have come to attack a person. And that guard dog, having no chance whatsoever against an animal far physically superior, will go after that larger animal and give their life happily. Give their life. That's what I do. I'm a guard dog. I'm between me and my master in danger. Whatever happens to me is irrelevant. That's a guard dog. And I think most people watching this are starting to understand exactly where I'm going with this, based on the title of this. EU leaders exposed as America's suicidal guard dog. A guard dog, by its very nature, is suicidal, because It's not, let me put it this way. It's not that it is affirmatively suicidal. It's not like, hey, I can't wait to jump off a cliff and kill myself. It is suicidal in that it doesn't place a value on its own life or safety, only on that of its master, right? Let's talk about now. The thing about a dog is not cunning. A dog doesn't do clandestine activities for the most part. A guard dog is going to sit there, look at you. He's even going to, guard dog is going to, like a rattlesnake. A rattlesnake rattles because he doesn't want to have to bite. He wants to ward off danger. He wants you to know there's a problem. He wants you to go the other. It's an alert, an alarm, right? A guard dog will start by growling and barking at you. He's giving you an alert. He's giving you an alarm. If you come any closer, it's going to be me and you, bro. We're going to dance. That's what the guard dog's saying. You want to dance? We're going to dance. But if you come any closer to my master, we're going to dance. Whereas a human, human's something else. The human guard dog is cunning. The human guard dog has to fool people. They don't have the teeth and the claws and the fangs. They got to use the cerebral cortex, right? Let's look at an example. So what are the leaders of the Europe? It's clear by this point that they are willing, able to give up everything for their masters in Washington, D.C. And they are doing it. And 2022 has made it clear. If the people in Europe thought they had any scintilla of independence and sovereignty, 2022 has been a great year for them. In that, for those who have eyes, for those who have ears, they can see it and they can hear it as clear as day. But what good does it do to play a symphony before a deaf audience? Right? And so what we've got is we've still got a large number of people in Europe, in the US, etc., maybe even the majority, who are walking around listening to a symphony with their fingers in their ears. It's blatantly obvious that they are being had, that they are being betrayed, that they are being thrown to the wolves by their leaders, and they walk around with their yellow and blue flags anyway, thinking, yes, sir, we are standing up against the Russians. We are standing up for as though there's a we. As though their leaders are looking at them like, yeah, guys, I'm on your side. Let's work together, dudes. We're going to make it happen. But let's look at a couple of things that may wake up these poor suckers. Okay. And let's talk about the cunning, the way that these guard dogs are cunning. All righty. We've got good old Meloni, right? Giorgia Meloni, man, you know what's funny about this? All of these people in Europe and a lot in the US who had their sights set on Giorgia Meloni. Oh man, she's a right winger. She's going to stand up for her people. She's going to push back against the Americans. The Italians got it made now. They got the Americans on the ropes. They got them all on the ropes. The Italians, and they've got Giorgia Meloni. She's going to fight. And look, this is how cunning these guard dogs are. Look what she says. Italy urges EU to push back, right? Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has called for the European Union to become more economically independent in the wake of a new U.S. law that puts the bloc's manufacturers at a competitive disadvantage. Bloomberg reported on Thursday. Oh, Bloomberg. So Bloomberg's speaking out. Oh, Bloomberg saying, yes, sirree. That Giorgia Meloni's standing up. Let's look at that. Meloni urged the EU. Oh, well, we're not going to look at that. It's a video. All right. To rebuild its supply chains for key industries in response to the U.S. Information Act, right? They must revise the bloc must also revise its rules on state aid to manufacturers, blah, 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 right? So she's saying, Meloni has argued that the IRA discriminates against European companies, right? Italian economy minister Giancarlo Giorgetti warned earlier this month that some companies are already considering moving factories to the U.S., which would be a disaster. Considering? Come on. They're not stupid. They know what I know, what everybody with a brain knows. The U.S. is intentionally stripping Europe of its economy, basically, but for its own purposes. It's intentionally stripping Europe of its industry. And they're like, I think they might be up to something. Yeah, I don't know. It may be. It's possible that the U.S. is taking, he says, what's he say? Some countries are considering moving factories to the US, which would be a disaster. Some companies are in the process of moving their their factories to the US, which is a disaster, but not for you, because you're one of the rich guard dogs and you're going to walk away from this whole, better than ever. I will guarantee you, these schmucks here, they got money invested all over the place in this stuff. They're going to clean up. That's the way it always is. Oh no, you know, guys, I may be wrong here. I'm just going to throw this out there, but I think the Americans might be trying to take our industry. I don't know. You think? It says, commenting on the matter earlier in December, Russian President Vladimir Putin said that today the EU's main partner, the US, is pursuing policies leading directly to the deindustrialization of Europe. Yeah. Yeah. Putin said it. I said it many, many months ago. Everybody said it. We know it. It's obvious. So Meloni, oh, she's standing up for the people of Europe. She's pushing back, and all of these people who think she's great are just as thrilled. We won this time. We, the people, won to stand up against the globalists. Let's look what else she's saying. Let's go to U.S. News and World Report. 3 days ago, December 27th, Italy's Meloni reaffirms support for Ukraine in call with Zelensky. She reaffirmed her government's full support for Ukraine in a call with Vladimir Zelensky, right? Meloni, who took office in October, has been a firm supporter of Kiev, despite friction on the issue with her rightist ruling coalition and divided public opinion. So what do you have? Meloni comes in. I'm going to stand up. We've got to stand up for Europe. Blah, 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 blah. You poor suckers. And then she calls the Americans. What's up? Hey, yeah, I'm on board. Don't worry about these idiots. I will pacify them. I will tell these people what they got to hear. Don't even worry about it. I got these poor bastards covered. They're done. How we doing as far as moving industry over to US? Yeah, we're rolling. We're rolling. We're going to pack our stuff up. We'll have these. We'll have the Italian workers help to pack the factories up. If you want, we can ship some of them over to the US so they can train the US workers to do their jobs. You know, that it worked out well. Okay, give me a call. I got to get back to duping the suckers and rubes and get them to believe that I'm on their side. Can you believe these people over here? They are such sheep. All right, thanks a lot there, Joe. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye. See ya. Toodles. Click. That's what the conversation sounds like. Look at this. Meloni renewed the Italian government's full support for Kiev in the political, military, economic, and humanitarian fields to repair infrastructure and for the future reconstruction. In a tweet published earlier, Zelensky thanked Meloni for her solidarity. So, yeah, oh, wait a minute. Here's one. Well, maybe she did something different here. Let's look at this. Meloni urges Italians to turn off lights in solidarity with Ukraine. So this great outside of the U.S. empire person who's a right winger who's standing up to globalist, blah, 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 blah. So she says, now look at this over here. Guess what she says? Where is it? She's full support in the political, military, economic, and humanitarian fields, repair infrastructure, future reconstruction. She's got the Ukrainians covered. We're good. Whatever they need. Do they need money? Do they need weapons? The humanitarian aid? I got them covered. I'm going to make sure the Ukrainians get everything I got. Oh, really? What about the Italians? Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni on Thursday called on Italians to switch off gas and electricity for an hour a day in solidarity with Ukraine, she says. To understand what the Ukrainians are going through, I ask all Italians to switch off all energy sources for 1 hour a day, Meloni said on Thursday during a speech in Rome. Meloni, whose far-right Brothers of Italy party often stresses the importance of nationalism and patriotism, paid tributes to Ukrainians who are defending their freedom. Meloni has pledged to keep supplying arms to Ukraine despite friction on the issue within her rightist coalition and a divided public opinion. My party don't want me to do it. My people don't want me to do it, but I'm a guard dog and my masters have spoken. I heard my master's voice, and to hell with these people. Now, as far as the Ukrainians, they're going to get political, military, economic, humanitarian aid. That's what they're getting. As far as the Italians, you know what they're getting? Turn your lights off. Turn your lights off an hour so you'll feel better. In fact, one of the articles said that she said to do that so they can symbolically stick it to Putin. So you know what you get in Italy? You get symbolism. Hey, what do we need? We need jobs. Yeah. Turn your lights off for an hour so and think about the Ukrainians. Yeah, but we're kind of hungry right now. Okay, then turn them off for 2 hours. And we can't afford our electric bills. There you go. Turn them off for 3 hours. Just no matter every problem that you have, you know what the leaders in Europe are going to say? You know, if you would turn your lights off for an additional hour, that would make things better because you'll understand how the people in Ukraine feel. Their lives are living hell. Why don't you turn off your electricity and your life will be a living hell too? What about the Americans? Yeah, you know, things are a little rough in America right now, but they're fine. But as for your ass, it's grass. And guess what? And the EU is the lawnmower. What's going on now is clear there. It's clear. The leaders of Europe, she's just an example of one of the many leaders of Europe. The leaders of Europe get on the phone with Zelensky. They get on the phone with their masters and they say, look, we're going to do everything and anything we can to help you. What we have is yours. Our money is yours. Our power is yours. Our political might is yours. Whatever. We're guard dogs. Our jobs, the leaders of Macron, Schultz, Maloney, their jobs are not to look out for the people of Europe. That ain't what a guard dog does. A guard dog will sacrifice everything for his master. That's what we've learned. That's what the people of Europe, I believe that they believed, and I know that because I had some thoughts, that there was some level of independence. That I thought Macron was the president of France. I thought Scholz, and I used to talk about it. Now it's a joke. Well, why would anybody talk about Macron as being in charge of France, or Sunak in charge of this, or Schultz in charge of that, or Maloney in charge of this? What a joke. When, in their sly and cunning way, they're deceiving their own people. So you got to understand that the guard dog animal, the canine guard dog, doesn't have the intellectual capacity to use a cunning and to use lies and deceit and treachery. The canine guard dog can signal you with a growl and then he can attack. That's all the canine guard dog can do. The human guard dog doesn't have the fangs. So the human guard dog does what? What is Macron doing? What is Schultz doing? What is Maloney doing? They send signals to their people. Hey, look, I'm here for you. Hey, look, you know, hey, we need to stand up against the U.S. We're going to stand up against the U.S. That's what we got to push back against the U.S. I think, maybe wrong, I'm not sure, but I think they may be stealing something from us, maybe even some of our industry, maybe a little. And if they are, we must symbolically push back against them. You know what? Maloney and her people might as well say, look, the U.S. is stealing all our industry. What I want you to do is turn your lights off for an hour every day so you can symbolically stick it to the Americans, so you can symbolically understand how it will feel once the Americans steal your damn industry and you're in absolute and abject poverty with no hope for the future. You need to understand that now, because that's what's coming, my friends. That's what's coming for you. And so therefore, if you just turn your lights off for an hour or two now, you'll understand what it's going to be like when your lights are out forever. When you click the switch, nothing comes on. When there's raw sewage running through the streets, when there's shanty towns surrounding Paris and London and Berlin, because there's going to be no industry. You're not going to have, so first of all, it's a crowded place. Europe is very crowded. So realistically, you're going to have high crime, which means you're not going to get people. I've heard people say Europe is going to be a place for tourism. There ain't going to be no place for tourism. You're going to have a high crime because it's crowded. No industry is never coming, ever coming back. It is leaving and it is never coming back. The year is 2022. Remember 2022, Europeans. Remember 2022. It is the year that your cunning and deceitful leaders, who are guard dogs for the empire, threw you under the bus when they said the empire feels threatened, the U.S. empire feels threatened, and we're here to die for that threat. And they looked at Biden. They said, "What do you want me to do? How do you want me to guard you?" And Biden said, first of all, I want your money. Second of all, I want your industry. Third of all, I want your money and your industry. And fourth, in order to do that, I need you to lie and deceive your people. And they're like, oh, you did, I mean, come on. Really? Like, you really had to tell us that? You didn't have to tell us to lie and deceive our people. We're already doing that. But now we're just going to step it up to a higher level. I mean, we were lying and deceiving them on a basic level. Now we're going to go, we're going to go to the highest level of lies and deceit. And there's Maloney. Yeah, we got to push back against Americans. What kind of symbolic pushing is she going to do? We must push back against the Americans because they may be taking our industry and it's not working out. For what? You know what? She's going to push back against the Americans in the same way that she's telling her people to stand up for Ukraine. She's going to turn the lights out in her bedroom at night when she goes to sleep, symbolically to stick it to the Americans. And then she's going to wake up in the morning and continue to be complicit in the destruction of the Italian economy. That's what she's going to do. And I got to say this, you know how I feel about this. Italians kind of got it coming. I always get back to this. I don't know why, but I think it's reasonable. I think it's reasonable. Not any individual Italian, not any individual European, not you if you're looking at there saying, like me, saying, what the hell are these people doing, right? In the same way that the U.S., we're $31 trillion in debt. We're in an unpayable debt, and we're run by lunatics and idiots. This country is going straight to hell. And you know what? As an individual, I don't deserve that. I didn't do it. But as a nation, we earned it. We got it coming. You put these kind of people in office, you believe the bullshit that they hand us, this is what you're going to get. Ours is a little further out than Europe's. Oh, but it's coming, my friend. When that dollar crashes, it is coming. But Europe is going to get the first taste of it. And if I look at what Europe has been over the last year, people running around like the most horrific, racist, anti-Russian stuff. It's almost like, well, we're not allowed to be racist against certain groups anymore. How about the Russians? Okay, great. We'll be the worst, most horrific racist ever in the world. They are like, Europe has turned into the one giant Ku Klux Klan operation when it comes to Russians. It's like, hey, what do you think of Russians? Hate them all. What about little Russians? Got to hate the little ones and the big ones and the big ones and the medium ones. Hey, what do you want? You think they should be able to sing with us? No, they're Russians. Should they be able to play sports with us? Oh, Russians play sports. We need a sign on the bathroom. Europeans only. No Russians allowed. We don't allow your filthy kind around here, you filthy Russians. That's what Europe is now. It is like the apartheid South in antebellum America for Russians. Now, I may be exaggerating a little bit, but not that much. Not that much when it comes to attitudes. You've seen it. You've seen people in Germany. Has anybody, I'm sure everybody's seen the video of the woman in Germany. Well, the Russians aren't Europeans. They may look like Europeans. They may smell like Europeans. But oh, no, they are not Europeans. Something is implied, and that is that Europeans are superior to others. It's implied in that. Hey, they may look like us, we're superior. They may sound like us, we're superior, but they're not like us, we're superior. There is an inherent horrific racism against Russians and Slavic people involved in that. And you didn't hear like all of Germany saying, we must stand up and condemn her. No, they're clapping for, yay, way to go. Talk about them stinking Russians. Yeah, we hate them all. So since Europe has turned into a giant KKK operation against the Russians, and might I add, that was the cheese in the trap, as they say. See, here's the thing about it. Your leaders are cunning guard dogs. They use their wit, right? They use lies and deceit in order to get the people of Europe to accept policies that are the absolute destruction of Europe. And that's the way they do it. They start by this. Hey, look, let me give you, you hate the Russians, don't you? Yes. Wink, Wink. You hate the Russians, right? Yeah, wink. Good. Excellent. We can work with it from there. Right. Because as soon as now all they got to tell you, hey, go, if you would walk over there and take your head and slam it into that tree a couple times, symbolically, you'd really stick it to Putin. Really? You think yeah, you hate the Russians, don't you? Absolutely. There's the tree. Wham! Head right into the tree. Good work. Hey, way to go there, sucker. All right. Line up, Europeans, one and all. Well, if you really hate the Russians, we want you to line up one by one and bash your head right into that tree. And the Europeans are like, yay, we hate the Russians. We're bashing our heads into the tree. That's kind of the mentality that they help to not create, but foster, because it was already there. And it's coming back in spades to haunt Europe. It is coming back in spades to haunt Europe. They have been had, they have been deceived, and their weakness has been used against them. And so therefore, they kind of getting what they got coming in a way, in the same way that I, not as an individual, but as an overall American, we're going to get what we got coming. And my point of this whole thing is 2022 is a year to me of wisdom. 2022 is a year where we look at it and come on, we look at these articles and you got Giorgia Meloni coming in saying we got to stand up for the Italian people, right? Going to office, coming in saying we're going to push back against, whatever. And when she gets in office, this is all you're going to get, friends, dear and fluffy friends. When she comes in, this is what you're going to get. Italy's Meloni reaffirmed support for Ukraine. That's 3 days ago. This is what you get. This is how she helps out you. Meloni urges Italians to turn off lights in solidarity with Ukraine. That's what you get. Ukraine gets your money. And let me tell you something. Ukraine ain't getting your money. When they say we're going to help Ukraine, you know what they're going to do? They're going to send money over to the U.S. The U.S. is going to say, Lockheed Martin, we need you to build some missiles. And Lockheed Martin said, sure, 2 years out. 2 years out before we get these done. But the war will be long over by then, but they don't care because that money ain't going back to Italy or anybody. They're going to call France and Germany. Hey, man, recently, I think $550 million, something like that, somewhere around that area, that the UK, people are hungry in the streets. They got food banks in the streets. They got poverty everywhere, crime, madness going on. The place is a freaking disaster area, and they're sending $550 million to Ukraine. Bad news, my friends, it ain't even going to Ukraine. $550 million is going straight to Washington, D.C., which getting divvied out. Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, BAE Systems, blah, blah, blah. They're all going to get theirs. And some of it's going to go to Ukraine. I mean, the oligarchs got to have something to launder. FTX scandal. Did you pay any attention to the FTX scandal? Did you know one of the things that happened? That some of the money that went to Ukraine went to this crypto scam. So you know what? I can tell you this. Out of that $550 million that the UK is sending to Ukraine, a percentage of it is going to another crypto style scam. You think that wasn't the only scam? As they say, even a rat has more than one hole, right? They got multiple scams. That's just one of them. One of the scams is we're paying Northrop Grumman or who the hell ever for whatever. They got it. They got for some kind of radar shells, whatever they'll call it. They got all kinds of stuff. They've got these private satellite companies with all the satellites the U.S. has. Private satellite companies that they're paying for their satellites for Ukraine, as if the U.S. needs that. No, they don't. But retired generals and various people are on the boards or own these companies. So that's just another way of shoveling money into the hands of their buddies. And you know what they're doing? They're extracting the wealth of Europe. They are sucking Europe dry. They're taking their industry, they're bringing it here. They're sucking their money out. They're giving it to their crypto scams. They're giving it to Northrop Grumman. They're giving it to these private satellite firms. They're all getting a piece of it. Everybody in DC, they're living good right now. They couldn't be happier. There's one of the big reasons that the U.S. wants the Ukraine war to go on is so they can continue to parasitically drain Europe dry. They want this thing to go on. And one of the reasons is so that every 6 months they can call the UK and say, hey, suckers, yeah, another 550 million. Macron, whatever the hell your name is, what you got? Down to 400 million. You better make it 450. Shut up. Wham. Schultz, yeah, I'm gonna slap the hell out of you again. Okay, now give me a $500,000, $500 million. How about a whole billion? You got it. Slam. They don't have to call Maloney. She's got the lights out and she's just putting money in wheelbarrows, sending it to the neocons in Washington. They are happy. They want this thing going on, man. They are cleaning up. And the people of Europe are sitting there with a blue and yellow flag. But like, hey, they're like, hey, whatever you do, don't turn on RT or Sputnik or Press TV or CGTN. Don't turn into any of those things. Because you know what they're going to say to you? They're going to say to you, you're being had. They're going to say to you, you're being took, hoodwinked, led astray, misled, lied to, bamboozled. They're going to tell you you're being lied to. So whatever you do, the EU, it's obvious why they had to shut down like RT and everything early in the war. Because they wanted the sole attention of the sheep, the sole brain power of the masses, so they could bring you out there. They could paint the trains blue and yellow. Everything's blue and yellow. I turn on TV now in the US. Everything you turn around, there's like, I was watching, I think MedStar, this company that provides a medical coverage, right? They're blue and yellow. Everything's Ukraine blue and yellow. Why? Because they got to brainwash the dupes. If I'm going to walk over to your house, open your door, snatch the food out of your mouth, slap your whole family, poop on your carpet, and leave, I got to have your mentality in a sheepish manner so that you'll welcome that. Because a person with any guts, a person with a spine is going to say, I ain't letting you in. And if you come in and try to take what I got, I'm going to fight. No, you're not coming to my house and take my stuff. And the Europeans are like, hey, America, right this way. You can eat our food, beat our children, have sex with our wife, poop on our carpet, do anything you want. Oh, here's my here's all of the information from my bank account. If you want to end that too, just take it all. Americans are just sitting there. Excuse me, the leaders of Europe are sitting there doing that. Take everything, America. Let me give you a hand. Can I help you? Yeah, is there some of the stuff too heavy to carry? I'll help you out. That's what the European leaders are doing, and the European people are just sitting there like spectators. Is there anything else you want us to do, master? And the European people are just like that. Anything else you want us to do? And their leaders are like, yeah, shut up. Can't you see I'm busy? Okay, I'm shutting up. You want me to shut up? I know how to shut up. 2022, I think, revealed something. I've gone to countries where that are devastated by U.S. sanctions, right? And talk to the people, and they're like, screw the U.S. Give them the finger. I hate them. You tell them we'll stand up to them. You tell them we'll fight them. I remember Venezuela, little women, way out in the country, little poor women shaking their fists. You tell the Americans we'll fight for our democracy. Oh, hey, I don't want any parts of it. These women were ready to fight. They weren't guard dogs for the U.S. They didn't have anything. The U.S. was stripping them, but they said, we will fight. We're not, you're going to have to kill every one of us, and some of us are going to kill some of you. So if you want to come get what we got, you're going to have to fight for it. I'm like, I respect these people. I go to a poor country, poor because we've screwed them over. They ain't got oil to sell, right? For the U.S. is screwing them over. At the time, they were in the last time I was there, it was the midst of the heavy sanctions, right? The people were poor. They didn't have much of anything. They were barely making it. The country was barely scraping along above, starvation. And they shook their fist at the U.S. empire, said, we'll fight for what you got. You want a piece of me? Come on. That's where they were, right? Well, you look at Europe and what do you got? Sheep. None of, I don't see it like a movement on the streets. Let's stand up. I mean, yeah, there's some protest here and there, but I mean, for what's happening to the Europeans, I can't respect the masses. Not get me wrong. Like I said, there's a lot of people in Europe who are saying this is wrong, but the masses that would sit down and watch this, I don't know what to tell you other than this is what, to some extent, if you're a sheep that will be marched to the slaughterhouse and slaughtered, you ought to be eaten. That's what you got coming in life. That is the nature of a sheep, to grow wool and eventually be eaten. That's what the sheep was bred for. The kinds of sheep that we have are bred to produce wool and to be eaten. It's their job in life. And if the Europeans are going to sit around and listen to Maloney's and Macron's and Schultz, number one, and see these people as leaders and look at these people and say, yes, sir, Macron, Maloney, Schultz, that's my kind of guy, girl, whatever. That's the person that leads me. I'm behind you. Yes, sir. They're going to take us to glory. If you think those people are going to take you to glory, they're going to take you to somewhere, and it ain't going to be glory. And if that, and you're going to wonder why you're riding in a handbasket. Where are we going? Why are we in this handbasket? You're going to find out. As for those of you who aren't in the U.S., there's an old saying, there's an adage about going to hell in a handbasket, right? That's what's what. And so in 2022, a year that it was dramatically revealed to the world that the leaders of Europe are guard dogs for the empire, the people in Europe. And a lot of the dupes right here in the US are the ones that couldn't see it. The people in Africa can see it. The people in the Middle East. Look at the Saudis. The Saudis are like, man, the Americans, screw these people. They're out of their freaking minds. I'm going to deal with the Russians and the Chinese. The Muslim countries, look at the Arab League. You know, the Europeans have been poo-pooing, oh, the Muslim countries, bleh. We don't want them around here. Oh, the Africans, oh, African migrants. We're so sick of them. They're lowlifes, right? They're just the lowly people. And now look, now who's the idiot? Now the Africans are like, hey, white people, we ain't done with America. Y'all can hang with them if you want to. And we are not going to migrate to Europe anymore. It's damn cold and there ain't no food here. We'll just chill right here in Africa, wherever we're chilling. We're out. We're done, right? So the Africans who have been poo-pooed as a lesser group by the Muslim world are sitting there like, yeah, well, you can say what you want, but we ain't stupid enough to let these idiots drag us down the road to hell. So at this point, the South Americans, the Caribbeans, the Africans, the Muslims are independent and sovereign, and they're willing to fight for it. They're willing to take to the streets. They're taking to the streets. Look what's happening in the Middle East. Look what's happening in Africa. These people are Haiti. These people are taking to the streets. They're angry. The Haitians are like, our government's a bunch of puppets, and we're not going to tolerate it. By the tens of thousands, they're not reporting it, but the Haitians are in the streets by the tens of thousands. Why? Why are they in the streets? Because they have a puppet U.S. government, and they're not going to put up with it. They ain't got nothing, and so they ain't got nothing to lose. Why is it that the Europeans aren't like the Haitians? They don't have the spine as a, overall. They're just sitting here. And I hate to put down Europeans. I'm not, and some people are going to get mad, but I don't care. Whatever. I got to say what I got to say. You know me. I don't have any better sense. I'm not saying any individual European. I'm saying that as a continent, as a culture, they have been pacified. They've been pacified by their leaders. They've had a binky, that's a little pacifier, stuck in their mouth to suck on, or they stick their thumb in their mouth to suck on, so that they don't have to face the reality of what their leaders are doing. See, if you're in a country that's had a corrupt leader, you've watched your country suck you dry. You're in Nigeria, you're in whatever, right? And you're like, man, we're making billions, trillions of dollars in oil, and only 1% of the people get it. Like in Nigeria, they see it. They're like, 1% of the people are rich. The other 99% are poor. And most of the money, a little of it goes to that rich 1% to be complicit, the comprador class, and the rest goes overseas to the UK or the US. They're hip. They're like, we know our leaders are screwing us and we don't trust them. We don't like them. And they're all puppets for the US. And now you're seeing people in the streets and things of that, uprisings, things of that nature throughout Africa. They're kicking the French out of West Africa, etc. Right? You see them standing up because they're hip. They're like, we don't trust our leaders. They're puppets. Comprador class, they call them. The Europeans, trust me, you ain't no difference. Your leaders are on the same team as the African leaders. They're a comprador class. The same exact thing. You know the difference? The Europeans think their leaders are on their side and the Africans know theirs aren't. So in the long run, That's why things are going to turn around in another direction. That's why Europe is going to turn into the poor part of the world. And some of these other parts of the world that have been called developing nations are going to continue to develop and improve because they're going to have some level of sovereignty. If you don't have sovereignty, your country is going to be sucked dry. If you don't have sovereignty, that means that someone on the outside of your country is running things. And if it's the US, you know what they're doing? They're sucking you dry. And the other thing about it is people are like, wow, that's really, really fast. I mean, Europe has been growing for centuries. And now in 1 year, in 2 years, 18 months to 2 years, about 24 months is what it'll take for the US to get the industry out, to suck Europe dry and to leave them high and dry, right? How do they do it so fast? They have no choice, because if they don't do it quick, if you're a criminal and you break in a house, you don't want to lollygag around in there. You don't want to break into a house and, go watch a movie and have a drink and, do practice your ballroom dancing. No, you don't have time. If you're a criminal, you break into a house, you look around, you scan the area, you steal everything you can as quick as you can, you get out of there. Quick, boom, you're in, you're out quickly. Why? Because you're a criminal. You don't have time. The US doesn't have a lot of time to rob Europe, because at some point the Europeans may get so upset they'll turn on the comprador class. At some point the Europeans may get so upset that they start to get wise to them. They got about 2 years before the Europeans get hip. 24 months is about it. And they're going to steal everything they can within those 24 months. Sorry about that, Europe. I feel bad. I'm over here. All your stuff's going to here. And one of the things that's going to happen is this. It will improve the US economy. It will. Why wouldn't it? If we take Siemens and Volkswagen, if we take Renault, if we take, all of them, all of those countries industries are coming here. All of them. They have no choice. The US has set up an environment where the cost of doing business there, due to the increased cost in industry, is just too high. All of those companies cannot be competitive in Europe. So they're going to have to move somewhere where they can be competitive. Where do you think that's going to be? And the U.S. is passing laws that says in order to access our market, you got to make stuff here. Well, what do you think they're doing that for? Hey, Siemens, yeah, do you want to get in the U.S. market? Yeah, the U.S. market is huge. Okay, good. You got to move to U.S. Okay, you move to the US. Why? Because if you move to the US, you still have access to what's left of the European market. Why? Because the European leaders are dupes, and they're not going to pass the same kind of law that the US. The US is going to pass a law that says, Siemens, if you want to do business here, you got to be here. And the European leaders are going to go, that's wrong. And people are going to say, well, are you going to pass the same laws so Siemens can't do business? No, I'm not going to do anything. So I'm just going to say that's wrong and hang my head in shame. And then Siemens is going to move, and they're going to have access to the U.S. market. They're going to have access to the U.S. labor. They're going to enrich the Americans, and they're still going to be able to sell stuff in our market. Why wouldn't they move? And we won't be able to afford it because the energy cost will be too high. That's their way of hurting. See, think about it. When the U.S. looks at its competitors, it sees Russia, it sees China, it sees India to some extent, and it sees the EU. You see, my dear friends, the EU is not an ally to the US. The US empire doesn't have allies. It views the EU as a competitor, a rising competitor. When the EU leaders start saying, perhaps we should have an army. Oh, really? Well, perhaps we should steal all of your industry and impoverish you, and then you can't afford an army. That's what the US is doing. So it's looking at its competitors and it's saying, how do I destroy my competitors? Number one, I'm going to try to surround Russia and blah, blah, blah. I'm going to try to surround China and put missiles there, threaten them and get them involved in proxy wars. That's how I'll do with them. Now, what about this competitor, the Europe? Well, that's an easy one. All you got to do is make a phone call. European leaders, yeah, this is a call. I want all of you on the call. Yeah, we're taking all your industry and we're going to impoverish you. And here's what I need you to do. I need you to run cover for us through your people. It's going to take us about 2 years to do it. We need lots of cover. Can you give us political cover? Not a problem. Macron, you on? Got it. Maloney, hey, 100%. Schultz, hey, you know me, bro. I got you covered. That's it. Look, there was a fear that the Europeans may weaken and they may start getting Russian energy again, right? The U.S. blew it up. They just blew up the pipeline. Gotta get my coffee. The U.S. simply blew up the method that the Russians had, that the Europeans had for keeping their industry. That was their hope for keeping their industry. Hold on 1 second here. That was their hope. Their hope was that pipeline, right? We're going to keep our industry. How? Well, we're going to start taking oil back through the pipeline. And the U.S. like sat around, hey, man, I think these people may be able to get around it. All right, we got you covered. They called the UK. UK, yeah, blow the pipeline. It's a balloon. Now look, and now look what's going on. Look what's going on. The U.S. is like, I mean, the Americans blew the hell out of their pipeline to make sure they could get all of their industry. That's what that was about, to make sure that the Europeans couldn't do anything about the prices in energy. Blew it up, and they'll blow it up again if they have to. Why wouldn't they? But what's going on now? The Sweden and Denmark, Germany, whoever the hell, right? They're looking into it. They're doing an investigation. What'd you find? Looks like it wasn't the Russians. We didn't, and that's recently what they've said. Well, we don't have any evidence that it was the Russians. Oh, really? Hey, there's a shock. It wasn't the Russians who blew up their own pipeline. They didn't put all that money in and blow it up, right? So that's your answer. I was an investigator. Whenever I ran investigations, what do you think? Hey, we're pretty sure that Garland is the murderer. How's your investigations coming along? Well, we're sure it wasn't Dave. You sure it wasn't Dave, huh? We asked you, is Garland the murderer? Everybody suspects Garland. Garland said he was going to kill the guy. He sent him threatening text. He's there. Look, here's a picture of Garland on social media holding up a sign. Hey, I'm going to kill the guy. He's a dead man, with a picture of him with a little circle and a line through it. We are sure that Garland is the killer. What did your investigation show? That it wasn't Dave. Anything about Garland? Who? What? The name doesn't ring a bell. So the investigators do an investigation. They make no mention of the prime suspect, and the best they can find is the person that everybody knows didn't do it, which would be in this instance Russia, is to state the glaringly obvious. Hey, what do you got on that? Sweden, Denmark, and Germany? It wasn't. Looks like it wasn't Russia. Oh, really? Yeah, we kind of knew that. Anything on the perpetrator? What about the prime suspect? Yeah, we haven't looked into anything to do with the prime suspect. Oh, you mean the person that likely did it? Yeah. Haven't really got a chance to dig into that yet. We're still making sure that the person that everybody knows didn't do it, we're still trying to make sure that they didn't do it. Now, we know they didn't do it. Everybody knows that they didn't do it. There's no chance that they did it. So we're going to spend all our resources looking into the fact that, well, they didn't do it. Now, as for the prime suspect that everybody knows that did it, we haven't really got a chance to dig into that part of the investigation. Give us time. Eventually, we won't, but we're going to convince you that we will. All right. Have a nice day. We're out. That's the investigation in Europe. What does that tell you? If you're a European, complicity? Can you figure out that you're being took? I hope so. 2022 was the year that the Europeans got all the information they could possibly need. 2024 is the year that the Europeans learned that their leaders are nothing but guard dogs for the U.S. empire, and they're throwing them all under the bus or a steamroller, backing over it. 2020 is the year that the Europeans learned they have no sovereignty whatsoever and no independence, that those U.S. bases in Europe are not bases of assistance. They're not jump-off points. They're occupation bases. You are being militarily occupied by the United States empire. That's what the Europeans, I'm not going to say that's what the Europeans learned this year. The evidence is overwhelming for the Europeans that that's a reality this year. They may not have learned it. Some of them have. A lot of them haven't. Might take them till they wake up and their industry's gone and they're in abject poverty and they're hiding from the crime and the disease and the sewage and the shanty towns and all of the when they went to what people used to call a third world country and saw this abject poverty while they're looking out their own front window, and that's what they're seeing now, scratching their head, wondering how that happened. I'm going to say 2022. Do you recall what happened when you learned you had no sovereignty? If you learn you have no sovereignty, then you got to do something about it. If you learn you have no freedom, no liberty, no sovereignty, no nothing, you got to do nothing about it. And if you don't do anything about it, then you don't deserve it. Then it's not there for you. It's not an option. If you're not willing to do something about it, at least stand up for it and push back, then you're only getting what you kind of got coming to you, which is not much of anything, sadly. Now, one might argue, let me give one defense. One might argue, okay, they've been propagandized. they live in a what the people over in Consortium News, Joe Loria, has referred to as a psyopcracy, right? In one big psyop. Fair enough. Fair enough. I'll give you that with one caveat. Yes, the American people and the European people have been submitted to, have been uh, um, put under the spell of lies and psyops and propaganda. True, 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 true. But here's what I have to say. Look, I get in the subway. I get in Washington, D.C., I get in the subway every day. I get on the subway and the guy sits next to me and steals my wallet. Come there the next day, I take my shoes off and close my eyes. He steals my shoes. Next day, I get off. Where's my hat? I can't find my hat. He stole my hat, right? I better stop sitting next to that guy. If that guy says, hey, Garland, can I come over your house? No, I don't want to be anywhere. You're a thief. I can't trust you, right? How many times does it take to realize that you can't trust a thief? You know who this guy is now, right? When somebody shows you who they are, believe them. I'll say this to the UK. Do you have a memory of what happened in the early 2000s with weapons of mass destruction? Do you recall that? Right? You were lied to by your leaders. Lied to. Now, let me add this to the rest of Europe. Look at the US. Look at the wars that we've been. Look at the lies that we've been through. You know, the US put a bullet in the head of one of their own presidents, and you're going to trust these people to lead you? See, well, I am where I am, and I would guarantee you that most of the people who are in the chat right now, who are watching this, who are into alternative news, are kind of think like me in some ways, not in all ways, but in some ways where they're like, I don't trust these people. They're liars. Ghislaine Maxwell, what's going on with pedophilia here? That's kind of scary. And how come nobody's like, hey, we got to look into, investigate this or that? What about the list from Ghislaine Maxwell's operatives and people who were involved in pedophilia and human trafficking with her? No time to look into that. We're too busy right now. When you see that, what happened with Epstein? Suicide? He killed himself. Isn't that interesting? And conveniently, the cameras went out, the guards fell asleep. What is interesting coincidences all at the same time. And that's when he decided to kill himself. These coincidences are overwhelming, right? Here's what I have to say. There's a lot of people like me who are in there, who are in the chat, who are saying to themselves, I don't believe these people. They're up to no good. They're into all kind of unsavory things. They're lying to us. No. When they come to us and say, can I lead you into a war? We're going to say, no. Hey, can we sanction so-and-so? We're going to say, no. You guys are doing us in. You've lied to us. You've cheated us. You're up to nefarious activities. We don't like you. We don't trust you. I'm sorry. So, yes, you're being propagandized. Yet, fair enough. To the people of Europe and the people of US. Fair enough. Yes, you are being propagandized, but you have to have a mind that's open to propaganda. You have to be so gullible that you get lied to over and over and you still believe the next lie. See, weapons of mass destruction was good enough for me. At that point, I realized I will never believe these people again. When they said Syria, I don't believe them. And now, China, now I'll say this. I know people right now that are like, oh, Russia. Oh, my God. All these lies about Russia. The Biden team, they're lying about Russia. Everything they're saying about Russia is a lie. How can you let these people lead you into confrontation with Russia? They're madmen. And I say, what about China? Well, now, you know, the Biden people are right about China. And all of the hawks and the neocons and the Victoria Newlands and all of these hawks that are the worst human beings on earth that lie about everything. I could never trust them on anything except China. So even amongst us who don't trust these people, there's still some dupes that when they come up with something new, you know, they haven't even gotten to the next war yet. They're still screwing things up with Russia. They haven't even gotten to China yet. And we still got some idiots running around like, yeah, you know, I think Victoria Nuland and Lynn Cheney and Biden and these people, I think they're onto something when it comes to China. Maybe I'll support them when it comes to that. Well, then you're going to get, that's why I say dupes get what they got coming to it. Unfortunately, we're on the same ship with these dupes. And so when it goes to the bottom of the sea, we're on air with them. And we're, you know, we go to the icy cold bottom of the Atlantic along with these schmucks. At any rate, I guess I've said enough for one day. I've kind of enjoyed talking. Oh, let's see. Let me look and see if we got any I don't know if I made any sense today. Who the hell knows? But I just had stuff to say, you know. Salty Texas trucker. Thanks, Salty. Now we know why our southern border is wide open. Need cheap labor for new industry. Our standard of living is going to tank. Only way to be competitive is globally. Yeah, it's already tanking. Number one, it's tanked and it's tanking more. And look, you know, look, can I say something about the border? You know, it's like this. You got a brain tumor, right? And someone says to you, take an aspirin. An aspirin will address the pain, but not the tumor. You got to address the cause, right? Here's, once again, globalism. Once again, imperialism. The U.S. goes to El Salvador, Guatemala, this country, overthrows their government, steals their stuff, turns their country into a banana plantation so we can steal their resources or lithium or whatever. We turn their country into a living hell. Commit massacres. And that's a fact. Guatemala, El Salvador, Nicaragua, on and on, turn their country into a living hell. And our policies show back up at our borders. Those people then come to our borders and we're like, hey, our borders are all screwed up. What are these? How this happened? How these people come to our borders? Think about the EU. They go over there. How did the migrant crisis start in the EU? Syria. The US and the UK and these other countries go in there, start this hellified war in Syria, trying to overthrow the government of Syria. And what happens? All these Syrians show up on the shores of Italy and wherever the hell, you know, Spain, you name it. All these. What happens then? They overthrow the country of Libya. And what did Muammar Gaddafi tell him? He told Tony Blair in a phone call. And here's what he said. Here's what he said. You can find the text of the phone call. He said, look, if you overthrow my country, it's the gateway to Africa. He said, Europe will turn black. He says all the people of Africa, anywhere that's poor or whatever, is going to come straight through Libya and go to Africa. You'll have a migrant crisis. And Tony Blair said to him, if you got another country to go to, you better do it because we're going to do it. Right. So look, the bottom line is this. They knew what they were doing. So now the Europeans are like, hey, migrants are showing up. We don't want these migrants. They're not like us. They're so blah, blah, blah. But what they don't do is look at their leaders and say, why the hell did you do this? You're destabilizing these countries, and these people are now showing up on our border. You're blowing the hell out of these countries. They're showing up on our border. You're starting wars in these countries. You got AFRICOM bombing drones all over these countries, and they're showing up in our border. Stop the policies that are destabilizing these regions so the people won't show up at our border. No, nobody in the U.S. says that. They just look at the migrants. Nobody in the UK says, what the hell's going on? These neocon policies are creating waves of migrants. No, they just say, look at that. There's waves of migrants. How can I deal with them? And you know what? The neocons are thrilled because you're not holding them responsible and accountable. You're not saying to them they have to change their policies because that's what they're doing. And when they move on to the next country, Ukraine, it's the same thing. There's no difference between Syria and Ukraine in that they went to Syria, they destabilized Syria, and a bunch of Syrians showed up on your doorstep. Tell me I'm lying about that. You know that's the truth. Then what happened in Ukraine? They start a war in Ukraine. They fill it full of, they NATOize Ukraine. Russia tells them, don't do that crap or we're going to fight you off our border. And they're like, yeah, that's exactly what we want. They do that. Now a wave of Ukrainians all over, millions of Ukrainians and more coming. And the Europeans are like, yay, we love those Ukrainians. Send more. How stupid could you be? It's the exact same thing as Libya and elsewhere. And you're like, not you, but I mean, Europeans are like, yay, we've got to stand up against Russia. Send us the Ukrainians. And the Ukrainians are like, hey, our country is poor and corrupt. What the hell? You mean I can go live in France and the UK now and suck off these people? Thanks. You mean I can live here and get like free stuff and everything? Yeah, I'm out. I'm gone. They ain't never going back to Ukraine ever. It was it was either the poorest or the second poorest, depending on what metrics you use, country in Europe. And they got a chance to get out and go to the UK and Germany and France and all these other places, the Netherlands, wherever. They ain't ever going back. And I don't blame them. They shouldn't come back. If you find a horse and you can ride on that horse's back, you should ride the horse. They found countries that have more money than they do, where they can go get stuff for free. And who did it? What happened again? What was it again? It was the neocons. The neocons are grinning all the way to the bank while they send these Ukrainian refugees all over Europe to eat the food you ought to be eating, to sleep in the houses that you ought to be sleeping in, right? While they send you, and you gladly welcome in, hey, send more into our own homes. We'll feed them. Yay. And what are the neocons doing while the European people are suffering to stand up against Russia? They're sending $100 billion to Ukraine. And it's somehow going to the FTX, Sam Bankman-Fried scandal crypto money, and it's going right back into their pockets. While the European people, as always, bite the bullet. They get poorer, they get surrounded by refugees, their jobs are out the window, their lives are turned to hell, and the neocons are taking our tax dollars right out of the money. They're taking your money, your 550 million or whatever now out of an impoverished UK. They're cleaning up, they're going to passing the hat around. All your countries, give me your money. They're taking that money, they're saying it's going to Ukraine, but it ain't. It's all a scam. It's all a scandal. 2022 is the year that the Europeans should wake up, but I don't think they will. And I guess that's it. That's my end of the year rant. So tomorrow is New Year's Day. I'll be on in the morning. Maybe I'll try to get some people to come on and we'll do some time or whatever tomorrow, Saturday morning in Eastern Standard Time. And I won't piss off all the Europeans because I'm telling them they're being had and they're being duped by their leaders, and really they need to stand up for them. I can imagine that would piss you off. It would piss me off if somebody was climbing on my back and I was sitting there letting them climb on my back and somebody walked up to me. Garland, you idiot. What? That guy's on your back. Yeah, I know, but he's on my side. No, he ain't on your side. He'd be over here if he's on your side. He's on here. He's on your back. There's a difference between on your side and on your back. European leaders ain't on your side. They're on your back. Thanks a lot, everybody. Okay, are there any more? Did I already do Salty Texas Trucker? Yes, I did. I don't see any more people. I'm sure they're not. Look, I'm sure if there's Europeans, they're all pissed off at me today. I don't see. So I imagine I'm not going to get any super chats, but that's all right. I got to say what I got to say the way I say it. Thanks, Tao 3, 4, 5, 6 for the super chat. Let's go to Rockfin. Thanks a lot, everybody on Rockfin. Oh, Garland, you turn when you talk foreign policy. That's what somebody said. I don't know. Come on, Garland. Take it all the way there. Connect American foreign policy to the WF and the billionaire predator class. You're gifted with the facility of language and how to use it effectively. Wish I had the gift. I don't know. I'm just, you know what? Really, I'm just running off at the mouth. You know, I'm just saying the things that I think, and I think I get carried away sometimes. But the one good thing is this. What you get from me more often than not is a stream of consciousness, right? What you get from me more often than not, like it or not, is a person saying what they think. I don't have an agenda. I don't have like some underlying thing that I'm trying to make happen. I don't have anybody I'm trying to dupe or fool. If you listen to my podcasts, or that's what these are, you will find that sometimes they get kind of rambly. Sometimes I just ramble because I'm just saying what I just get started and I'm just saying what I think. I'm just running off at the mile at what I think. BlackRock. So somebody mentioned BlackRock, that we need to talk about that. MSM glass ceiling is too thick for MSM. People break through. Fourth Reich underway. Yeah, you got that Fourth Reich business. But somebody mentioned BlackRock. That's another interesting one. Again, BlackRock is signing up with Ukraine, whatever's going to be left of it. Part of that is, let me say this, part of that is part of propaganda. You know, BlackRock pretending that there's going to be something left of Ukraine afterwards. BlackRock is part of the machine. And the fact that, I mean, come on, think about this. Here you got a so-called war going on, and it's so supposedly for democracy against authoritarianism and all of that, and BlackRock is stepping in. What is BlackRock doing in the middle of a war? Hey, we're going to join into this war, and we're going to rebuild, and we're going to do this. That should let you know that it's nothing but a gigantic economic scam, that it's an ATM. When BlackRock gets in, you know there's an ATM. You know that country is an ATM. They're not even fooling around with it anymore. They're like BlackRock's like, hey, did I see $100 billion laying around over there? $100 billion going in? Yeah, open that door for me. I want to go over there. BlackRock's like, there's too much money going around here for me not to get a piece of it. So BlackRock's going to get a piece of it. And what you get if you're Europeans, you know what you get? You get to turn your lights out for an hour in solidarity, so you can feel what the Ukrainians feel like. Well, first of all, you're going to know what they feel like because they're moving into your house. They're coming to your community, into your neighborhood, Bad news, some of them might have a copy of Mein Kampf and a swastika tattoo. Hey, but hey, that's the way it goes. So you'll get to see what the Ukrainians feel like up close and personal for quite a long time, because they ain't going home. And I don't blame them. I don't blame them. If I was from a poor country and I got to go to whatever, Italy, wherever, and the government was going to give me X amount of pounds a year, and they were going to put a roof over my head and whatever, and I couldn't get that back home, why wouldn't I keep taking it? Why wouldn't I? I don't blame them. They ought to keep taking it. Oh, turn off your fridge next. Exactly. Well, you won't have to turn off your fridge. It'll be empty. It will be empty. There won't be no point turning off the fridge. You don't have to turn off unless you want some cold water. Yeah, you could keep the fridge on if you want cold water. If you want to put food in it, it won't be of any value to you. All right. Thanks a lot. Soon banknotes will be cheaper than toilet paper. That's about the side of it. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks a lot, everybody at Rockfin. Once again, I'm out of here, and I'll give you my last spiel for anyone who can. Everything's scrolling across the bottom. Make sure you follow me. I've got my Patreon. If you can do $1 or $3 or $5 or $100 a month, whatever you can do to help for Patreon, I appreciate it. Got PayPal is there. If you don't want to do that, we got buymeacoffee.com/GarlandNH. What the H is about, I don't know, but they stuck an H on there. Cash App. And of course, good old Rockfin, ROKFIN.com. Make sure you become a member. Absolutely no charge to become a member of Rockfin. Make sure everybody hit the like button here and go to rockfin.com and become a member on Rockfin, simply because if they toss me off of YouTube, which they've tossed me off everywhere else, why not there? Then you can still be a member on Rockfin. And there's another option on Rockfin. You can become a subscriber. It's $14.99 a month. But if you sign up for a year, you get 2 months free. So it's only $10 a month it comes out to, or $9.99 a month it comes out to if you sign up for a year. So sign up for a year on Rockfin. The reason being on Rockfin as a subscriber is Rockfin is a free speech channel, and it has no advertisements whatsoever. So subscribers help keeps it on the air. You can be on there for free if you can't afford it. If you can, it would be great if you can be a subscriber. The only advantage you get from being a subscriber, which is an advantage, is every Wednesday from 9 to 10, I do a show with Scott Ritter for an hour, and subscribers, it's a subscriber only show. I do the first 15 or 20 minutes for everybody, but the rest is a subscriber only show, and it's worth it. So if you could become a subscriber to Rockfin, that would help keep a free speech channel afloat with no advertisements, and help keep the channel strong. Whatever you can do, if you can afford it, help the channel. If you can't, keep it. Take care of your family. Thanks a lot, everybody. I'm out.